If you'd like to learn how to make hidden paths in your Obby, keep watching and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Welcome to Roblox Snippets. Alright, in this video we are going to look at creating a hidden path that we can insert into our Obby. And if you haven't watched my videos before, I usually do the example here, and then at the end I will show you how to add this new Obby or obstacle into a main game Obby and link them all together. So to begin with, we will create a couple of items for us to use in this example. So if you come up to Home and then to Part, we'll just create a standard part for a start, and we'll call this one Path, okay? I'll just make that all lowercase, Path part. And it's just going to serve, as suggested, you're just going to run along on it. So I'll leave it grey and we will make it a pebble sort of shape, and we can just scale this to be big enough to run on. So let's just make it out like this a little bit, and you'll want to come down and anchor this part. It's not going to do anything as such except for us to run on it, and we might lift it up off of the base plate. And I think just for now we'll move our spawn point as well, sort of up near it, ready for us to run or jump onto it. Alright, so just up like that, so that it's sitting up off the ground. Right now, what's going to happen, there's two parts to our coding here. I've made it a bit of a challenge for the players that the hidden path will only show up if the player has not died yet in the game. So we're going to simulate that by creating a script in the base plate. So to make the base plate a bit more scary, we'll make it lava. So you can select base plate, come down, and we'll make it red. And we'll change the material to be cracked lava. Alright, so it looks a bit ominous. And we're going to add a script into the base plate. So go ahead and click on plus next to base plate and add a script. And we'll call this our kill player script. Now we're not actually going to kill the player, in case you're distressed. We're going to simulate killing the player so that we can just do the example. Alright, so in the script we'll create a variable for the base plate, so base equals script.parent, and we'll create a db, alright, a variable which is dbounce. This is to control our script. And now we'll create a touched event, so base.touched, and we will connect a function to this and pass in the brackets the parameter of hit, which will be the part of the player that is hitting the base plate. So it could be their leg or their arm, etc. From this we can get our player, so we can say local player equals game.players, and we'll say get player from character. Now, as I said, this is a part of the character. So if it's the character's foot, its parent will be the character itself. So we can simply put in here hit.parent. And that will get us our player. Now just below this, we'll make a conditional statement. So if player and db, then, so if both of those are true, then we can say db equals false. Oh, there's helper. That you could do what it says here, but that's not what we're going to do. And down towards the end of the script, we're going to say task.wait of, say, a second, and then we'll set db back to true. So this effectively lets us run whatever's inside here every second. Okay, now we're only going to run this once, because once we've killed the player, that's all we really need to do. All right, and we're going to do this with an attribute. So we're not quite finished this script yet, but if we come back to our workspace, and I'll just bring up the Explorer and Properties window, we'll come down to our server script service and click on plus, and we're going to add a main script in here. So main script. So this runs first for all players when they enter the game, and we're simply going to add in here game.players and player added, and connect a function to this and pass in whoever the player is that's joining the game. And we're only going to add one line inside of here at the moment to make this work, and we're going to create an attribute for the player. Now, if you haven't used attributes, they are like variables, but we can attach them to well, the player or anything just about, and you'll find that they are much quicker as well. So the way we do it is we say player, so whichever player it is, a colon set attribute. So this is creating the attribute, and we're going to call it is alive. So you can spell this all lowercase if you want, but however you spell it, this is how we need to refer to it in the future. So just pay attention to how you set it up, and then move outside the inverted commas and put a comma, and now we're going to put the value that we want to make this attribute, and in this case we're going to make it true, so the player is alive. Okay, now if you want to see how that looks or where you find this, if you come up and click on play, and you can just follow along if you like, or do it yourself, but if we come up to players while the game's running and I click on my character name, if you come down into the properties and scroll right down to the bottom, you'll see attributes is alive has been added down here with a checkbox, so it's like a boolean. Alright, checked is true, unchecked is false. Alright, so that's where to find it. So we can stop that there and come back to our kill player script, and inside of here we're now going to check to see if that variable is if the player is alive, and because they're landing on the lava, if they are alive we're going to set it to false and give them a message. So we do that by saying if player, and this time because we've already got the attribute, we'll say get attribute and a set of inverted commas is alive. Alright, make sure the spelling is correct. Then outside of here, then so this line will effectively return the value that is attached to this. So if this is true, which it will be when we start, this code in here will run. And if that is the case, we're going to say player set attribute is alive and move outside, and we're going to change it to false. And when we do that, we'll give a special message in the output window by saying warn, which will come up in an orange print statement, and we'll give them the message you died. Okay, and so no matter how many times they fall off, then if they are already dead, so is alive is false, they'll only get this message once, and we won't reset is alive for the rest of the time they play. Okay, so you'll see how this all works together very shortly, but for now that's all we need to have in this script. So if you've got that, you can close that script, and if you want to give it a run, by all means come up to view and click on output window, so you've got a message down here and we can run. Alright, so I'm in the game, and now if I run onto the lava, you'll see down the bottom, you died. Alright, and no matter how many times I run around now, it'll only say it once because I'm already dead. Okay, and if I jump up here, nothing's going to happen. Alright, but that's what you want this message down here. So I'll stop that there. Alright, for the last part of this first section, we just need to create a couple of models. So up in our workspace, we will now create another part. So come up to home and then a part, and we'll call this a box. And this is just going to be dummy boxes, because in the main script I've got actual boxes that I've made. But to make it look a bit like a box, we'll make it brown, and we'll come down to make it wood planks. And whoops, I changed that by scrolling on it. Let's see, wood planks. There we go. And now let's come back up to the top, or down to its size, and let's make them 4 by 4 by 4. So we've got a box shape, and down here we can turn off can collide, so the players can run through them, but we'll turn on anchored so that they stay wherever we put them. And if you just move off to the side, and I'll hit F on my keyboard, we're going to make a little pile of these boxes. So because we made them 4, we did make them 4, didn't we? Yes, 4. we can come up to Model up the top here and click on Move, and we're going to move or duplicate it and move it over so it sits next to it. So if we put in here 4 studs, and then if I click on the box and right click and duplicate, I can now just move this one across like this. And you can repeat that a couple of times, so move it in front and right click and duplicate, move it over here, and the last one we'll duplicate and move it up. And now we want it to sit in the middle of these. So if you change this to be half of whatever the size of the box is and move it 1 click to the right or left and then into the middle, we have a nice neat pile of boxes. So click on the first box and then come down and holding down Shift, click on the last one to select them all, then right click and come up Group as Model, and we'll change the name of this model to be Box Model. And now we can move that whole box sort of out to the side out here like this. Now the idea of this is because we're having a hidden path, and if you've played Crash Bandicoot, you'll probably see where I'm going with this. Sometimes you can see objects that you should be able to get, but you can't work out how to get there. And that's a little bit what we're going to do here. So these boxes will be sitting out here that the player wants to collect, but they need to find a switch over here, which we'll create in a moment, to create a hidden path to come out into the boxes. So let's make our switch now. So back into the workspace, we'll come up to Home and click on Part once again, and we'll call this our trigger part. We'll make it, down in its size, we'll make it 4 by 4 by 4, and you can make it any colour you like. I might just make mine a yellow one and just leave it as plastic, and I'll just turn that off so I can move this up so it's sitting on our path. Alright, I did put, you can put decals or whatever you like in there, but we'll just make it like this. Then come down to Can Collide and turn that off. Turn on Anchored, and it will stay where it is here for the player to run into. Alright, before we make the script for our trigger part here, we will create our hidden path that will let our players get out to our pile of boxes. So come up to the workspace and we will come over to Home and we'll create a part. Now you can make this, I'll leave it the same as what the path is here, and we will make this a pebble, and we'll make this like a tile, and we're going to reveal each tile out to the path until the player can run onto the path and get out there to get the boxes. So we'll call this part our hidden part, or path maybe would be a better term. So path, and let's make this, we'll change the size down here to be 5 by 1 by 5, and that will be, we could probably make it bigger than that if you like. So let's say we go 8 by 1 by 8, and that will be quite big. And move it over so that it's lined up with our trigger. So just up and sort of level with your path. Let's move in a little bit, come down, and that's pretty good about there, I think. Alright, so we've got it lined up with our path here at the moment. So the next thing we want to do is come down to Can Collide needs to be on so that they can run on it, and also Anchored will need to be on also. We will make this invisible to start with, but until we've built our path, we'll just leave it visible like this. Now we want this to appear in order out to our pile of boxes out here. So for that reason, we'll take our first part that we've built here and we'll right click and we will group it as a model, and we can change the name of this to Hidden Path Model. And now we can duplicate and move these out to our box, and that way, because we're doing it inside the model, then they should appear in order. All right, and if it doesn't, then I'll show you how to fix that. Now, as I said before, if you come up to Model and click on Move, and we want to be half of whatever the width of this is, and we made our path down here 8. Alright, so we want to change this to be 8. So not half, sorry. We want it to be 8 so that when we duplicate it, we click on it, right click and duplicate, and then we can snap it straight out in front of us, and you can continue to do this. Now, obviously in your game or your project, your path can go left, right, even up or down if you like. It doesn't really matter, but this is the process that you should go through in order to get it to appear correctly. Alright, so continue to duplicate these and move them out to our box out here. So duplicate, and we'll move out here. Now when we get to here, let's reposition our box model sort of on top of the path, like so. And maybe move it over, where are we? Sorry, move it over a little bit. There we go. And it's sitting on the end of our hidden path. Okay, so it's quite a simple path. Like I said, you could make it go around corners and do all sorts of things if you like. So now that we have each of these in here, let's click on the first one in our model, and then come down, hold down Shift and click on the last one. And while they're all blue like this, if you come down into the properties and change this to be 1, then they will all disappear. Alright, now the other thing before you click off it is we don't want them to accidentally discover that they can run on this. So if we come down to Can Collide, let's turn that off as well, and that way the players can't accidentally run onto this and discover that they can run out here. Alright, so we're all set up now to add the last bit of code that will let us reveal the path if the player hasn't died. And if they do die by falling on the lava, this box will simply disappear and the path will not show up. So to do that, we'll come back down and find our trigger part and add a script to it. And we'll change the name of our script to be just trigger script. And then we can come into our script and write the code. So we'll get rid of hello world. So the first thing we want to get is create a variable that will represent all of these parts in here so that we can run some code that will reveal them, turn on Can Collide, but we want to do it in order from top to bottom. Alright, so now, as I said, they should appear in order as we put them down here, but because we didn't put any numbers in here, we'll just have to watch when we run the code. So let's create a variable called hidden path, and it will be equal to workspace dot hidden path model, and then we want to put a colon and get children. Right, so it will look inside of this model, gather all of these parts, and put them over here as a table for us to work with in our code. And I'll just get rid of this so you can see. So right below this, we'll create a variable now for the trigger itself, so the part that the player is going to touch, and that will be script.parent. And we'll create our touched function first. So trigger.touched, so when the player touches this part, we want to connect a function to it, and once again pass in the hit, which is the part of the character. Whoops. There we go. And we'll get our player again the same way we did before. So game.players get player from character with hit.parent in here. And now we'll create a conditional statement using if player, and alright, we'll use the attribute. So player get the attribute of is alive, so make sure you pay attention to spelling, and then outside then. So if we do actually have a player here and that player is alive, then we can run the code inside here to reveal the boxes. Right now, when we reveal the boxes, it's going to take a little bit of time, so we're not going to reveal them all at once. We want one to appear and then the next one. So for that reason, we'll create a function up here to do that for us. So outside of our trigger, just drop a couple of lines here and we'll create a function. So local function show path and hit enter. And then inside of the function here, all right, it's this helper thing has come on here. We're going to change the transparency and can collide with a slight delay between each one, and we'll use a for loop to do that. So we'll put in here for I equals 1 and a comma, and then hashtag hidden path do. Now the hashtag will count all of the parts in here, so if you change how many parts are in here, the code won't break. It will simply count however many bits of path that we have inside of our table. And once we do that, for each of them as it cycles through, we want to look in the table up here, right, and we put a set of square brackets, and inside here it's looking for an index number, which we're going to use I. So we put I in here, so it'll be I1, 2, 3, etc. till it gets up to the end. And then for that particular part, we're going to change its transparency, and we're going to set it to be 0, all right, which will reveal it. And then we can say hidden path I can collide will equal true. So if we ran this now, because code runs so quickly, it would just simply, you touch the part and all the parts would just appear as 1, all right, which is not what we want to happen. So we're going to put a slight delay here at the end, task.wait of say 0.1 second between each one, and it run. Now, because this is running around and around, if we look back down in our script, we want to do other things after we've revealed this. So we really need to wait for this function to finish before we carry on down here. And we do that, we're going to add just at the end of the function line up here, so outside the for, return, and we'll say true. Okay, now what that means is this will run around for however long it takes, and when that for loop is finished, it will return a value of true to whatever called the function, and we're going to do that just down below here. So inside of our if player and get attribute, we'll put in a loop here that will just stand still and wait for this to return true, and we do that by saying repeat task.wait, so it's just going to wait over and over until show path. All right, now basically what that will do is it'll start here and it'll go wait, it'll check to see if show path is true, which it won't, it'll just return back nothing until it gets to here, and when it is true, it's looking for the value here, then it will move on to the next line, which in which case we're simply going to destroy the trigger part that will make it disappear. So we put trigger and destroy, and that will get rid of the part. Now, this is dependent if the player is alive. So now we'll write a piece of code that that if the player is dead, then we're simply going to give them a message and destroy the part anyway. So just below this, type else if. So if we still have a player, and this time we're going to say and not player get attribute is alive, then. Now when you put the word not in front of a variable, it's saying it's looking for true, but the not saying we're looking for false. So this is saying, do we have a player and is the player dead? All right, so that's what that means. It's not true, which is false. So hopefully that makes sense. And if that is the case, we want to print a message and say no path for you. And right below this, we'll say trigger destroy, and we will get rid of that. So I'll just make this a bit smaller so you can see everything going on here. Just a little bit smaller. So that's the whole script there, and we are ready to give this a test now. So before you test, just come up and give your project a save, and then come up to View if you don't have your windows open, and we'll open up our output window down the bottom to check if we have any errors when we run the game, and then we can come up and click on Play. Alright, I'm in the game, okay, and let's check our dead status for a start. Let's run off and die intentionally, and you'll see down here you died. Alright, so I can come over here and jump back up onto the platform, and now when I run up to the trigger, it disappeared and we got no path for you. So the player missed out on getting these bonus boxes out here. Right, so to check again, we'll stop the game and run it a second time. So that part is working for us. And now we've loaded in again, the player hasn't died yet, and if I run and jump onto the path and then run over to our trigger, you'll see that our parts all showed up out to our boxes, and I could run out here and collect the boxes if they weren't dummy boxes. Alright, so hopefully yours is all working like that. Now, if that's enough for you and you want to take that away and put it in your own project, good luck. However, if you want to stick around and see how I add this into the main game Obby that I'm creating, stick around and I'll show you how to do that next. Right, if you've stuck around, this won't take very long. We're going to take what we have built here and move it into our main game Obby project. Now, if you have been following along from the first video and creating it along with me, you can follow along with me now. Otherwise, you can just watch and see. Sometimes we come up with some problems that that you wouldn't otherwise expect, but this one should be pretty straightforward. So all we're going to do with this is to take our path that we've built here, so our hidden path model, and right click and come down to Save to File, and on your computer somewhere create a folder like this, Resources, where you can find it again, and I've called mine Hidden Path Model. I've already done it. It should be an RBXM file, and then click on Save. Now I'll just replace that one. The only other part that we need is our trigger part down here, so do the same thing with this. Right click and come down to Save to File and call it trigger part, into the same folder, RBXM file, and click on Save. I'll just replace mine. Now we don't need our box model because we've got that in here, and the kill script in the base down here that we created, I've already got that in there as well. The only other thing that we will need to look at is in the main script of creating this variable, but we'll do that shortly. So I'll switch over to the main game Obby now and we will add it in. Alright, I've opened up my main game Obby in here, and we've got lots of obstacles going on here. Just a quick overview. We have just a standard path, a path that moves backwards and forwards, our animated boxes that move, etc. And we have these lighter colors are checkpoints. And then we have these stairs that disappear when you run up them, and spinning platforms. Alright, so we've got a lot of things going on. Now, we're going to add in our hidden path, and you could add this in anywhere if you really wanted to, but to get it into the game, click on Workspace, then right click and come down to Insert from File, and locate the folder where you had your model, and let's insert our hidden path model into the workspace. It's currently all invisible, but we'll fix that in a moment, and do the same thing with the trigger part. So right click, Insert from File, and insert our trigger part. Alright, so we have this in here. Let's change our hidden path model here. Click on the first part, hold down Shift, and click the last part, and then down in its properties, let's change its transparency to say 0.5 so we can just see it, and that way we can position it correctly. Now you can, like I said, you can put this anywhere you like. So I'll take my trigger part here and we will move it over, and I might make it appear up here for now. Now this may change in the main game a bit later, but just to show you how it goes in, and we're going to place it just on top of this part here. So it's there when the player gets up to this checkpoint. And then we'll take our hidden path model and we'll raise it up and bring it over as well. And then to spin it around, if you click on Command or Control and hit R, you can spin the model around, and let's just position it correctly over here. So we'll move this up to the top and maybe over this way a little bit. Right, now the player really needs a reason to go out to the end here, so what we'll do is take one of our boxes, which is in the folder up here, and we'll simply duplicate a box. So right click and duplicate, and then we'll move it up and across over to near the end of our path. And let's just move up here. Now I won't bother making a pile of boxes like I did before, because that's just repetitive and you don't need to watch me do that. But you, by all means, you can put more time and effort into the details of your game. And I can't quite get him to sit up on top of that platform there just at the moment. I'll just bring him up. There we go, that's right. Alright, so we'll just put one box there and we're up to this part here. Right, so this checkpoint here, if we come to work out where we are, checkpoint 1 is where we start the game down here. Checkpoint 2 is this one, 3 is this one, and we should find that checkpoint 4 is this one up here. So to test this, we might come into our main script, because we need to add something into our main script as well. So open up our main script and we have all this going on. Now the first thing we'll do is add another attribute. We've already got one here for level complete. Let's now put in an attribute, player, whoops, set attribute is alive, and we'll set that to be true. Okay, now that's creating the attribute. Now if you remember, we created the part in our base plate to kill our player. So let's have a look at that script now as well. So open up your base plate script, and at the moment it's just dealing with the checkpoints to see what's going on. Now we will simply put in a conditional statement in here once we've got the player. So if we drop into here, I'll just make this a bit bigger, and we'll say if not player get attribute of is alive, and then outside here we're simply going to make the player dead. Alright, so we'll say player set attribute is alive, and we'll set that to false, because remember they are hitting the lava, and even though they don't die and get moved back to a checkpoint, the condition of our trigger box here is that they haven't died by the time they get to this point. Alright, so which means they have to be alive and not have fallen off until they get to here for this to work. And that should be all that we need to do in here to get that to work. Sorry, that's not right there. This should be if player is alive, then we want to make them dead. So sorry about that, but that should be correct now, and then it will run the rest of this code down here. Now the last thing we need to do is to come up to our hidden path model and set all of our parts in here. So select them all, and the transparency we want to set to 1 so that it is invisible. And now we have this mystery box out here. Now if we want to start from this checkpoint here, checkpoint 4, in our main script we can cheat by coming in and changing the... Actually that's not going to work, because I was going to say if we fall on the lava we'll go to checkpoint 4, however we'll then be dead and it won't work anyway. But let's just play it and we'll test both at this stage. So I'll open up the output window and let's play the game. Right, I have an error message that's come up, and I'll just I'll leave this in here because, like I said, things pop up sometimes. Because we've got data stores in here, even though I have it turned off at the moment, because the game's not published, it's causing an error. And you can simply come up here and comment that line out just at the moment, and that should fix that problem if you're following along. All right. So let's play again. Right, we are in the game now, and you'll notice I get a message that I created to say that data stores is disabled, so it's not saving. But if you haven't seen the Obby before, everything is now in action. So now I need to get through it by jumping across our obstacles and keep an eye on everything is working. So you'll see now change to checkpoint 2, and if I collect a box, I've now got 1 box, and then jump across here. All right, onto checkpoint 3. Now I died. Now I didn't put a message in there. However, let's see if when we get up here, our trigger is working. All right, no path for you. So that is working. And now I'll stop that there and we'll play again. Jump over to here. And I got the trigger and I'm able to run out. Our box is animating, and when I grab it, I have now 3 boxes. So of course you can make your hidden path go wherever you want. You could make it go down here, underneath, wherever you like, and have the player end up maybe taking a shortcut or something like that. So I hope you enjoyed that, and as a bonus, I will be making a game developer dev video about this game and how I will create the level system in here in the future, so that you can call this one level and then move the player to another level. So I look forward to seeing you in future videos. If you found this video useful, subscribe now. For more information about my online courses, go to mrbrendanross.com.